Hello, Heidi. Welcome to the Soul Line Self-Care Podcast. I'm so excited to talk with you today.
Hi, Tina. Oh, I'm so excited and thrilled for this conversation and can't wait to dive in with you.
Okay, to get started, tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do.
I am a business strategy coach. I help women create six-figure businesses within 6 months. And I am also a single mom. I have two kids. One is 12, going to be 13 at the end of November. And my daughter, that's my son. And my daughter is 14, going on 33.
Ooh, you're in the thick of it.
I am in the thick of it for sure. We went dress shopping last night for homecoming, which is tomorrow, and that was our second bout after 30. I think it was after 39 dresses. She finally smiled. So
Oh my God,
yes,
that sounds
that's
like a
what's
movie
going on.
title.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, well, one of the reasons I was so excited to have you on the podcast is because you have a great story about how you embraced self-care in your life. So if you could share your story with me from the beginning, I would love it.
Absolutely. And thank you for giving me this opportunity and this time with you. I'm really grateful for it. So my journey started about as far as going into my business and self-care, because I was, before my business started, I was a stay-at-home mom. And then 5.5 years ago, I found myself at the almost 6 years ago mediation table. I was moving through a divorce. And over the time that I had been married, we had ups and downs financially. But my role was basically to be the stay-at-home mom, take care of the kids. I was heavily involved in school, and I was go, 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 to the point where I was a perfectionist. I now declare myself a recovering perfectionist, because I work every day at not trying to hold myself back from being perfect.
Yes.
So much so that it was overlying into like the children's events, like birthday parties. I was up till maybe 4 a.m., waking up at 6 a.m. And then just that was our life. And so when I found myself going through a divorce, it was going from a stay-at-home mom to needing to becoming a single mom and having to figure out how to take care of me and my children. And while I was married, my husband was making anywhere between 6 figures and 7 figures. But when we moved through the divorce, there was nothing.
Mhm.
So I needed to figure out what I was going to do in order to make that happen, because I had a big why, and I always talk into a why that makes us cry. And that was staying home with my children, really trying to not change their life in a dramatic way, because there was already changes between him and I not being together. So I really wanted to be able to be home with them and have that flexibility of being able to get them if they were calling me sick from school or needing to move to activities. So I ended up working two jobs while building my business. And I found coaching online, and I thought it would be super easy. And hello, it's not. That's a whole nother
That,
story.
that's
That's
always
a
the
whole
case.
nother story. But while I was navigating, juggling all the things and trying to be here with my kids, I realized that I was running the rat race. I was on the hamster wheel every single day, taking the kids to school, going to the job, picking them up from school, doing the activities, working the second job at night, and then doing my business at the end of the night. It's getting maybe 4 or 5 hours of sleep at night. For me, that doesn't work. For some people it does. For me, that doesn't work. And my children, I realized, I was trying so much to give them so hard to give them so much. I was giving them so much less, because they were getting the worst parts of me. When they got me, they were getting the exhausted version of me. So that's when I really realized that I needed to let things go in order to protect myself and my children and create the family that I really got to create. So creating my vision, really getting clear on my vision, was the first step in my self-care process.
Yeah,
If
I
that makes sense.
I think yeah, you and I are soul friends. Like you even use the same words, the hamster wheel. Like yeah, and I experienced this pretty much the same exact thing as you. The one thing I want to point out that you said that I think is so important for women to hear is my kids were getting to the worst part of me. So like I always say, self-care is not selfish. And one of the reasons that is because when you take care of yourself first and you care for yourself at that deep level, then you get to put the best version of yourself into the world. And then your kids get to experience that, your partner, if you have one, your business, everything. And so I think that's a very, I just want to point out what you said and how quickly you realize that. I think that's beautiful. So,
Thank
so
you.
how did you move through that?
It was a journey, and it's still a work in progress because I am type A. I'm a go-goer. I have big dreams and visions for my business and for my family and what I want to create for my kids. I also want to be a really strong role model for them. I have a daughter and I have a son, and I want them both to know the world has changed, Tina, since we were growing up, right?
Yeah.
Like kids don't necessarily need to go to college these days. I want them to go for the experience, but
Mhm.
it gets to be their choice. And there's so many more opportunities. And I know for when I started my business, some of my family were like, why don't you just go back to school? If you want to be a coach, then go get a degree for us to be a psychologist or something like that. And I was like, no, that's not my vision.
Mhm.
And in being an entrepreneur, our minds work differently than other people's minds. And there's nothing wrong with either one. It's just a matter of, I want my children to dream big and to go after whatever they want to, and me to be supportive and them to know that I'm supportive of them. And you mentioned something when you touched on, really knowing, what was it that you just shared? I'm trying to go back to it because I have so much in my mind
When
right
you
now.
take care of yourself at that deep
Yes.
level, you get to put that best version.
Yes, and I hear so many people say, fill your cup up. It's important that we fill our cup up first. I'm a believer in not filling our cup, and that sounds kind of strange. People are gonna be like, what? I'm a believer in overflowing your cup, because filling your cup means it's going to empty again. That doesn't work. That's the hamster wheel, because we'll
Mhm.
take a moment to fill our cup. And many people think, oh, I'm going to go get a facial, or I'm going to go do that, and that's my self-care. It's deeper than that. It goes so much deeper than that. And to overflow your cup, it means that you're doing other things beyond that. I'm not saying don't go do that. We all love to feel pretty in our own way and whatever makes us feel that way, especially as women. But really, like for me, it's gratitude. It's really doing a practice of gratitude. And I do my gratitude in a different way. But those are some of the things that I want my kids to learn that too, because I heard about that for a really long time. And I thought it was woo woo, and I thought it was BS, to be honest with you. And I'm like, that doesn't work. And it takes 5 minutes a day. And I'll be
Yeah.
totally transparent. I don't do it every day because
Mhm.
we're moms, right? As you know, like moms, women, we juggle a lot of hats. And sometimes I do let that fall to the back burner, but I work every day at making sure that I'm making myself a priority. And that has transformed my life with my life with my children, and it has transformed my business too. I was a workaholic, and I thought that the more I put into my business, the faster it would grow, and it was completely the opposite. It grows
Yes.
faster when I spend less time in it. I have 4.5 hours of a day to work.
Mhm.
And my clients know that, my business partner knows that, and because my kids are now in two different schools, they start at two different times. Literally, my day starts at 10 a.m. for work. It ends at 2:30. That's my day. If
Yeah.
I need more to do at night, I will work that in, but I give myself grace and don't get hard on myself, because that's the time that I have. And that was a big learning lesson for me when I was navigating through this process, is forgiving myself, releasing the guilt,
Mhm.
and navigating through learning how to give myself grace.
Yes, absolutely. So I love the point that you made with the overflowing your cup, because you're exactly right. You can't have that time period of super duper self-care and then drain yourself out to the point of overwhelm and burnout and then do the self-care. It's a continuous process. It's a lifestyle shift. And I
Mm.
think understanding that is really, really important. It's something that you have to continuously do. And you talking about the gratitude practice is very interesting. If you could share, you said you do it differently. If you could share what you do, that's differently.
Absolutely. So I have a journal, and I wish I had it with me. Actually, I did it this morning. I sat down at the kitchen table for 5 minutes, and I did it. And when I do open my journal, I don't have any expectations. I write until I don't have anything left. So today, some days it could be three things,
Hmm.
because it's a rougher morning, or I'm just not feeling it. And some days it's 2 pages and it just flows. What I do, regardless of how many lines of gratitude I write my current gratitude. It always starts with my children. That's the number one. So I always have at least one or two or three things. Always starts with my children. Because without them, I wouldn't be where I am now, because everything we have and everything I've grown in my business is because of them, because my why is them.
Yeah.
And that drives me every day. So that I started with that, but my gratitude starts what I'm currently grateful for. It's my children, the sun shining, my bed my good night's sleep, the money in my bank account, right?
Hmm.
And then I move into my future gratitude. I'm grateful for the money that's continuously flowing into my bank account. I'm grateful for the love of my waking up next to the love of my life every day, because I'm not married again yet, or I don't have that, maybe, I'm not sure positive. I don't have that forever partner right now. So
Yeah.
that's something that I want and I'm moving toward, and I get to call that in. My mind doesn't know the difference. Right.
That's
So
right.
whatever you want, I'm grateful for the new roof over on my home. And this is something that actually came true. I had no idea how I was going to get a new roof. I was grateful for the roof as it already happened. And it may sound like a small thing, but being a single mom, putting out a big chunk of money,
It's a
it's
big thing.
scary. And I was, starting to go, and I needed to get it done in a quick amount of time. I put that in my journal, and guess what? I have a brand new roof on my home. The people came
Awesome.
into my life, the door started opening, because I was grateful for, even though I didn't have it, I was grateful for something in the future, but I was grateful for it as I already had it. And
Yeah.
that's key, because our subconscious doesn't know the difference. The
Hmm.
universe, God, whatever you believe in, and I'm not here to tell people what they believe in. Everybody's different. Whatever you believe in, those doors open. You get support, shows up unexpectedly in miraculous ways. And I promise you, if you do this, you're going to have miracles happen. Even if you're like, I don't even know how that's going to happen, I promise you the windows and the doors will start opening for you. So that's the gratitude that I do. And then I also, after I'm done with that, in my journal, I just started doing this a month or two ago. I do my affirmations. I do
Okay.
my I am statements. And I
Yeah.
always end my gratitude and I end my I am statements with thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
Because that's, again, we're thankful in advance. One other thing I always say is everything is happening for me.
Hmm.
Thank you, thank you.
Yes, I like that. That's beautiful. I love the future gratitude. I think that's absolutely beautiful. I'm going to try that. I haven't done that yet. I do like a nighttime one. I do like the current stuff like you, and then I do a nighttime one where I'm like, what was I grateful for today? Like one small thing that I'm grateful for. It's really
Mm,
nice way to end your day, but I
beautiful way.
love that. I love the future gratitude. That's beautiful.
Mm.
Something you said earlier, you talked about forgiveness and releasing guilt for yourself. If you could talk more on that, because I think so many women have so much guilt because we are kind of like programmed in society to do everything for everyone and put everybody else first before ourselves. It's like it's a programming that we have to almost like shift out of. And there's a lot of guilt when women start to do this, when they start to put themselves first. So talk about that practice. I think that's really important.
Well, that came with me learning that if I'm not selfish, meaning, and selfish means selfless, I think, because in order to be, we need to take care of ourselves first, because otherwise we will be running that hamster wheel. We will
Yes.
be overwhelmed. We will be hitting burnout. And I did all of that. And so whenever I'm feeling like, you know what, am I putting myself first too much? I always go back to my vision. What's my vision for myself and my family? And being leaning into it in that way, I'm not actually being selfish, and I get to release the guilt, because this is for me and my kids,
Mm.
and I am the role model for them. And what do I want for my kids? Do I want them always on the hamster wheel for the rest of their life? Do I want them hitting burnout and overwhelm? No. So I get to prioritize myself in order to show them that it's okay to prioritize them, because we're the role models for our children. And yes, we do tend to wear a lot of hats, and as women, we do a lot of things. But I think it's really important that we know that, and even if I do make mistake, I'm very open with my kids. I'll talk to them and say, listen, I maybe didn't handle that with you properly. I got a little snippy, or whatever, but this is why, because we're all human. So that's how I learned to give myself grace, is opening those doors to communication. I learned to forgive myself by just being taking responsibility. And that's something I learned in leadership when I went through a leadership program. And that, I think, shifted everything, learning responsibility and going like, you know what, I'm the creator of everything in my life. So if something's showing up that I don't want in my life, how did I create that? How am I showing up? And
Mhm.
that's how I learned to take responsibility and go, nope, everything starts with me. And if I want to create something, then it starts here. I don't get to lay the blame game. I take responsibility. And in doing that, I also understand I'm human and I get to make mistakes, but every mistake I make isn't really a mistake. It's a learning lesson that gets me to my next spot, my next cut, because I'm always looking to level up. So that's how I learned that everything's happening for me. And once I really embraced that, I learned forgiveness. I'm like, no, I didn't do anything wrong. Everything's happening for me. And there's a reason for this. I may not know what the reason is now, but
Mhm.
looking back at some point, when I look back, I'm going to be like, aha,
Mhm.
know that everything is working out perfect for me. And that was that's what got me through, releasing the guilt. Because I get to say to myself, whenever something shows up and the guilt shows up and goes, I should have done that differently, or I get hard on myself and self-talk, that negative self-talk kicks in. I'm like, no, there's a reason for this. I don't know it now, but I'm
Yeah.
going to know it sometime soon in the future. And I look forward to realizing what that is.
Absolutely. I always share, that's like one of the I just did a masterclass actually of the 3 mindset shifts that you need in order to get unstuck and move forward. And that's one of them, shifting from like almost like that victim mindset into why is this happening for me, not to me, right? And
Mm.
asking yourself the questions, what am I supposed to learn? How am I supposed to expand? Am I supposed to show up differently? Am I being redirected? Am I supposed to take a different direction? And it's always a learning opportunity, almost always. And if you don't know the why, it doesn't matter. It'll come up later in hindsight. And one of the ways I teach people that is like I'm like, look at a difficult situation that you handled in the past and look how it turned out. Can you see how it happened for you now that it's, past and you're through it and you're not in the thick of it? And you can usually see the good that came out of it. And so just knowing that makes it easier to move forward. And I think that I always used to say boundaries are like the foundation of self-care, but I think like the responsibility part that you just said, taking responsibility 100% for your own experience is
Mm.
absolutely huge. You have to be able to step into that first. So I'm like thinking about it right now as you were talking, I'm like, is our boundaries like the foundation, or is it really that first little step of just taking that responsibility? It's a small step. It seems simple, but it's not always simple. And I would say when I was coming out of like that victim mindset after being in like a very like mentally abusive marriage for many years, um, getting out of that victim mindset for me it took me actually years to get out of that. It took me a long time to step out of that. And tell me a little bit more about how that helps you in your business. Like like you said, you're working a couple hours a day. How do you release from that? I think that would be a good question for people.
It's not always easy.
Yeah.
It's like I said, I'm a type A. I like to, I have a big vision. I have big goals for my business, and I'm always looking to go to the next cut and the next level. As scary as it is. And we talked about that a little bit before we hit record, but, I want to talk into some of the things that I love this question, because a lot of the mindset things I work with my clients, this is one that I did recently. And this is part of self-care. And
Mhm.
it's not getting your nails done or getting the facials or getting your hair done, but it's really about the responsibility piece is huge.
Mhm.
And it's because it's like, once I learned that, it's like, okay, I get to step out of why is life like I'm not a participant in my
Mhm.
life. I'm in charge of my life. We only regret the things that we didn't do. We never regret the things that we did do. So when I realized that, and I'm like, okay, what is it that I want? And it took me a while to learn that. And for many women, that's a hard question. When you ask somebody, what do you want? Guess what they say? They tell you what they don't want. Well, that's not my question. So that's one thing that I bring into my coaching and into my businesses. And I get to reflect on that every now and then too. I do check-ins. What do I want? And sometimes I don't know the answer because I'm in that, I'm like, okay, well, now you're in the hamster wheel. You're not in responsibility. You're in victim. How do we shift out of that quickly? Another thing is verbiage. How am I talking to myself? And I talk to my clients about this. When I first start working with clients, you know what most of them are saying? I have to, I need to.
Yeah,
And
I should.
that, and right away, I'm like, get those words out of your vocabulary. Anytime you say them, I'm just going to let you know right now, I am not going to let that slide. I'm a shake you with love kind of coach. And this
Mhm.
is what I'm bringing to you because it all starts here. Everything's, and for those of you listening, I'm pointing in my head. It all starts in our mind, and that's our mindset. And we get to make mind shifts. And it starts with how we're talking to ourselves. We talk worse to ourselves than we'll ever talk to anyone else. And we should be our own best friends. I know everybody has their best friend, whether it's your partner or a friend that you've grown up with. But at the end of the day, we're our first best friend. So how are you talking to others? You should be talking to yourself better than you're actually speaking to others. And one of the shifts I have my clients do is take out the have to and the need to and replace it with I get to. And I always use this example. I have to do laundry.
Mhm.
I can't stand doing laundry, Tina.
I
So,
feel you.
but
Yeah.
when I'm like, I have to do laundry, like, do you hear my voice? And you can see me, you see my energy. When I say I get to do laundry, like, it's just a natural perk up. Like
Yeah.
the shift from I get to, I have to, or I need to I get to, it's like, I have to make my bed. I get to make my bed. Like, it sounds like I get to do a little jig or a little dance while I'm doing it. Like, let's throw on music and have a party while we're doing this. It's a complete shift in energy. It's a complete shift in your brain. And so that's what I talk to my clients into. Everything is a get to, even working in your business, even
Mhm.
doing homework with your kids. Everything is a get to versus a have to or need to. Because when we have to do something or need to do something, we are in scarcity. When we
Mhm.
get to do something, we are in abundance. And again, our subconscious, the universe, God doesn't know the difference. It doesn't know the difference. It already knows you're already hitting that high vibe where now abundance starts to be able to show up for you. Those doors get to open, those windows get to open, everything gets to open and show up for you. Another thing I've had my clients start doing, and it was amazing because I had this woman, she said, I need to, I have to, and everything was so heavy. My other clients were feeling it with her. They're like, oh, it's like so draining,
Mhm.
and I'm like, yeah, we're working on that. So now I said, go ahead and put your sticky notes all over your house, like all over. I get to, I'm grateful for. And anytime you see that sticky, refrigerator, bathroom mirror, I don't know, door in your office, TV, put it everywhere, right? On
Yeah.
your end tables, on your cabinet doors in your kitchen. I get to, I have to, and I'm sorry, I get to, and I'm grateful for. And you answer those questions every time you see the sticky. She took a picture, she had them everywhere. Tina, can
Yeah.
I tell you, the next time she showed up for our group coaching call, she was a different woman.
That's
She was
amazing.
lighter, she was brighter, she was smiling, she was giggling, her posture changed. And I'm like, and she sent me a picture the week before because she was like, I'll do that third. I'm like, what are you doing when you hang up off of this call? She goes, I'm doing this, and then I'll do the stickies. I said, no, those stickies get to move up to number 1, not number 3. This is priority. I know it doesn't sound like it's like it's going to get you further in your business, but I promise you. So she did it, and she's a whole new person. She generated $3,000 in a week, and everything has shifted just from I get to, I'm grateful for.
Yes. Yeah. And I don't think people realize how much power their words have. And yeah, another one is I should, and I'm gonna try. I'm gonna
Yeah,
try.
no.
I'm gonna try. Yeah. So those are some of the try part. The try one for me was a big one. I used to say that a lot, and I still do. Like it's still like a progress. And I have to laugh about the sticky note thing because I'm a sticky note person too. And
Ah,
I have to ask you, did you see the movie How Do You Know? It's with Paul Rudd, and I'm trying to remember the blonde, she's a blonde actress. Oh, I can't remember her name. But anyway,
Helen Hunt. Is it
no,
Helen?
no, no, it's
I know she did a movie with him.
a
No?
younger one, a younger one. She
Okay.
plays like a professional softball player, and Paul Rudd is kind of like the love interest. Jack Nicholson is in it too. But anyway, in the movie, the character that she plays, she has sticky notes all over her bathroom mirror with all
Uh,
different like affirmations and sayings. And that's when I started doing that. I started doing it on my mirror and, reading about mirror work and stuff like that. But I also want to add that it's actually scientifically proven. You keep bringing up the You keep saying your brain doesn't know the difference. And that is like scientifically proven. And there's people that use this, like athletes, they use it, they visualize themselves winning. And these are things that people actually do. They also learn that you could actually build muscle by visualizing yourself working out as opposed to actually working out. And so
Wow.
yeah. And so it's actually scientifically proving it's not just some like woo-woo thing. Although I love woo-woo. I love everything woo-woo.
I love woo now too. There was a time
Yes,
where it was like I was very in my head,
me too.
not in my heart, and I'm empathic, and I fought that too. And now I
Mhm.
just embrace it. I'm like, why am I fighting who I am? Because at the end of the day, those are the clients that I want to work with. I want to work with people that have
Yeah.
similar values as me and in core beliefs, and the are like are embrace my woo woo and all the things that are me. And I used to hide some of that stuff, and that's what I tell my clients too. I'm like, don't hide the quirks about you, because that's what makes people love you. Because there's
Yeah.
other people that are just as quirky as you out there, and they feel alone, because that's how I felt. I felt alone. And you're not alone. And the more we embrace it and the more we share it and we're vulnerable, and that was another thing I had to learn, and that was a lot of self-care, that I deep dive self-care I had to do around just trusting that the vulnerability that I shared was going to land, and that I get to repel the people that are not my people, and I get to draw in my tribe and the people that I really resonate with and who I want to surround myself with.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think when people start stepping into that and seeing the shifts that start coming into their lives, once they start stepping into the true self, like that true authentic version of themselves, the one that they hide from everybody because they're afraid they're going to be judged. I always tell my clients, I'm like, you'd be pleasantly surprised. Like when you open up to even like your closest friend or maybe even a family member, they might have the same exact thing inside of them. So because there's always like this fear, I'm going to lose this person. They're going to judge me, or they're going to, I'm like, you might be pleasantly surprised. They might be right at the same level as you and doing the same exact thing you're doing.
Right.
And because a lot of times that's what happens. But it's true. Like once you start showing up as yourself and like presenting yourself authentically, the right people are drawn into your life, and the other people, they just kind of fade away. It's not like some big dramatic
No,
outcome.
it's not at all.
Yeah, it's just something that's like a slow shift. And then before you know it, you're like, wow, like this is basically like pure happiness, having
Yeah.
all this aligned people in my life, all my relationships are aligned, my business is aligned, and it feels really good. Another question I have is, so how long have you been doing this type of work? And how often does it come up? Is it, as far as I don't know how to word this. How much maintenance do you have to do? I don't know if that's the right word, but you know what I'm saying? Like I want people to realize that it's like a practice that continues, kind of like working out, and that it's not like something you just do and then automatically your life shifts. So how much would you say these things pop up, and how much easier has it gotten over time for you?
With the self-care.
Yes.
Okay. Well, for me, I tested the self-care gratitude thing. The gratitude piece was like a test, because I remember I shared on that it was
Yes.
woo-woo, blah, blah. So I did it in a challenge that I was in, and I put something down that my future gratitude that I was grateful for as it currently happened. And I didn't believe it would happen. So I went into it even like not believing. This is how powerful this practice is. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying this is going to happen like this and as miraculously for anyone else, but I promise you that if you consistently do it, and consistency is different for everybody, and I'll talk into that in a second, is that I did it and I released it. I let
Mm.
it go. I did not continue my gratitude for 4 months.
Yeah.
4 months to the day that I had written that future gratitude that I never thought was possible or would happen, happened, showed up, and was complete. And I
Yeah.
was, my mouth dropped. I had to go back and look at, because I had an accountability partner, and her and I would check in, and I'm like, I did this, wrote this, I know months and months ago, but I don't know how long ago. And I looked back, it was 4 months to the day. That
Wow.
was the key sign to me that I get to continue this, and I get to continue this on a much more consistent basis. So I promise you, I hope I hope you don't do the same thing I did. How much more could I have created? Right.
Yeah.
Had I
Yeah.
kept doing it. That's the lesson I learned. So don't do what I
Exactly.
did. Take this lesson that I had to move through and learn in a slower pace, and amplify that for you and do it consistently. That being said, I have my journal. I shoot to do it every day. I don't think I've done it now. I did it today, and I'm going to be honest. I don't think I've done it in a week and a half to 2 weeks. But I
Mhm.
sat down this morning and I realized, like, when you're doing it every day, your energy builds upon itself. So you
Mhm.
can go more days with that energy because you put in the work, right? So first, for example, if you work out and then you take
Yes.
you consistently and you take a 2 week vacation, it's not going to affect you as much as someone that hasn't worked out consistently and now they take a 2 week vacation and they go off the wagon, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, when you do your gratitude, it's the same type of experience and progression. The more you do it and consistent you are, if some life happens and you don't do it, your vibe is still high, your energy is still high, things are showing up. However, you will start noticing the side effects of not doing it, which is what started, like, I started seeing my energy was fading. I was getting tired more. I was taking naps, and naps are self-care. Like, if I need a nap, I'll tell the kids, hey, I picked them up from school. It's around 4:30. I'm dipping right now. I'm going to go take 15 minutes and do a power nap, and then we'll hit the homework and we'll start dinner, that type of thing. So that do what you get to do in order to take care of yourself, and know that your body is telling you things. Also, your energy is telling you things. So I dived into the self-care or the gratitude. I got to say, nope, I make it to prioritize myself. I get to prioritize my gratitude, and I did it. And this day has been amazing. And I know more things are going to come. That being said, I now get to check in with myself and go, okay, that wasn't working, that I took off this week and a half. I get to now make sure that I'm doing that. For me, structure is another thing that's self-care for me. Everything goes on my calendar because I'm a very promoter type of personality. Means I'm a rah-rah, which means I'm not as trustworthy as some other personality types. And I admit that. I know that about myself. I will tell people I'm going to do something, and guess what? My promoter kicks in, shiny object kicks in, and I will veer off and not follow through. So I
Mhm.
know that about myself. I've learned that in leadership. And now I make sure that if I say something to someone, my word is my word is everything to me. So I
Yes.
don't want to be that person that people can't trust.
Yeah.
So everything goes on my calendar. Everything goes on my calendar so that I know I can do it. My team knows, if you want something done, it goes on my calendar, because if you ask me something in a meeting, I'm probably not going to do it going forward. So knowing who you are is another piece of self-care, and giving
Absolutely.
yourself grace for that. Because somebody else that's super organized and go, well, I'm a horrible person because I'm a promoter type of personality, and people can't trust me. No, they can. I just get to work harder at staying organized than someone else. And someone else that is very organized gets to look at me and go, I wish I could be more like her. And now
Yeah.
I get to implement these things. So those are some pieces of self-care too. I don't know if that answers your question. I hope so.
No, I mean, even if it didn't, it went into a perfect direction. Like, so I agree with that. And I think that was a very important point that you made about knowing who you are and taking care of yourself in that way. Instead of being hard on yourself and comparing, I hate it when I always say comparison is the killer of all dreams, right? Because
So
there
good.
is no comparison. Every person is so unique and so different. And even if you had very similar circumstances to another person, there's all these nuances that you don't know about. So comparing yourself to another person is absolutely ridiculous if you look at it from that frame of mind. And
Mm.
so really embracing who you are. There was a time period, this was ages ago, where I wouldn't finish things, right? And I realized when I was a kid, I was never like, I would sign up for things and my parents never forced me to finish things. And as soon as I would get nervous or scared, like I would just quit, and they allowed me to do that. And so that kind of like translated more into my adult life, and I realized I don't finish things. And so I actually just forced myself to start finishing things, and then also made it a point to decide to be very careful about what I commit myself to. So I want to finish these, asking myself the questions I need to ask to make sure I want to commit myself to something I'm going to do. And I'm now a person who finishes everything, no matter what. Like, and I don't even try anymore. Like, once I realized that that's how I was, I put into practice the things needed to support myself in that area, just knowing that about myself. So instead of coming down hard on yourself and comparing yourself, supporting yourself with the support that you need is the only way to go, really. So I love that you said that. It was so important. Um, I would like to end on that note, I think. But if you could just share how people could get in contact with you and work with you.
Thank you. This has been such, I just have to say thank you, Tina, before I go into that, because I think this has been such a powerful conversation, and there's so much more deep dives we could go into. So just for you listening, like, this podcast is really incredible. I'm on a lot of podcasts, and I just want to say thank you for doing what you're doing, because as women, most of us put self-care in the background, and it's not selfish to take care of yourself. It's actually imperative. It's imperative that
Yes.
you take care of yourself. So thank you just for all you're doing in the world and helping people navigate and learn that self-care is really important and should be put as a priority above everything else. Because even our children, as women, we put our children or everyone else in front of us. And if you're not taking care of yourself, you can't take care of them. And I know it sounds counterintuitive because it's like that whole cliche, oh, you need
Yeah.
to love yourself first before others can love you. That
Mhm.
is so true as well. But
Yes.
self-care is a really important piece, and doing the deeper dive. And I love that you talk about the deeper dive of self-care too. So thank
Yes.
you. So people can find me at my website. It's my name, HeidiSchalk.com. I'm also on Instagram, Heidi Schalk Coaching. I'm on Facebook. You can find me there. Friend me. I would love to connect with you. DM me. I do answer my own DMs. It's me in there, not my team. I have a team, but they're not in my DMs. I also have a Facebook group called Female Leaders and Entrepreneurs, where it's free group. So I do give weekly trainings on how to build your business and create the business that you love with balance, and that fits into your life. When I started, my life fit into my business. That didn't work. My business gets to fit into my life. Another piece of self-care, talking about that real quick, if you don't mind, Tina, is
Sure.
really prioritizing like everything fitting into your life the way you want it to fit, right? Because
Oh,
I think
yes, absolutely.
like that, when I started my business, that was a rabbit hole I went into. It's like everything was around my business, and that didn't help me grow. So so that's a free group you can jump into if you'd like. I'm on TikTok. I'm just getting started there, honestly. I'm a believer in, you start platforms one at a time until you get really good at one, and then you can start the next one. I'm on YouTube. I have a podcast called Be S.H.E, Be Seen, Be Heard, Be Empowered. I'm so excited about it. You can check that out at beshepodcast.com.
Yes, that's wonderful. We'll get all those links and we'll put them in the show notes so that people can check everything out.
Yeah.
I want to thank you again for being on the show, and thank you for that wonderful compliment. That makes me feel so good. And it is very important work. And it's basically my mission is to like let women know that it's okay to put themselves first and it's not selfish. It's almost like this big, huge shift that we need to make. Mostly with women, men too sometimes, but mostly with women. So thanks again for being on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.